There we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to your Inner Child and Dreams Masterclass with Chelsea and myself. I'm Sarah. So glad that you guys are here, whether you're live or watching the replay. This is a space to really help you understand more of your personal truth. And I'm going to let Chelsea introduce herself in a moment. She's a dream analyst, coach, and many more as well, many more things. But we are going to give some insight into the inner child, how it relates to dreams, what that all means for your journey, your spiritual journey, your self-development, and so much more. And we really hope that you get something for yourself to take with you tonight. And so set an intention as well as just be open to receive something new. And what I always say to my clients or to when I teach a workshop, just even just honing in on one major takeaway that you can take away from tonight, that will be huge for you. Less is more, but also we do want to give you an impactful night tonight that I hope you have some aha moments. You feel free to ask some questions. We would love to support you if you have questions. And again, I'm Sarah, and I'm an inner child and soul awakening coach, and I'm so glad you're here. I'm going to pass on the microphone to Chelsea, who's amazing, and she's going to just share a little intro, and we'll get started.
Yeah. Okay. So my name is Chelsea Turpinning-Coxey. I'm a dream analysis coach. I lean very heavily into like Carl Jung concepts. So I work with a lot of like metaphysical and the psychological and the internal symbolism and mass collective ideas. Uh, Very interesting sessions. I call it a soul discovery or a self-discovery because it seems to mirror a lot of the same. And also an author of the Living Life Metaphorically series. It's poetical series of about 3 books. I got the first one on Amazon now, and I'm starting to format the last 2. I can add the link here later for anyone that's interested. But yeah, so that's about it for myself, really. I don't want to spoil too much. We'll dive into some of the cooler topics of dreams here in a bit.
Awesome. I am just curious if anyone has ever opened up to the concepts of dreams, if anyone has had any interaction about dreaming about their life in a way where they see their inner child or something that they can't describe. I mean, there's no rules here, guys. Like, definitely just break the ice, share if you want to. And also know that if you never,
I've definitely had my fair share of pretty crazy, what I would consider to be communicative dreams. So
Nice.
awesome,
Yeah. I,
John.
I work with a lot of clients who have experienced a lot of metaphysical stuff.
Yeah. And I also want to just say, like, if you guys have never, this is a completely new concept, you're right on time, totally okay and normal. I'm actually going to be learning a little bit from Chelsea as well tonight with the Dream Analyst. So super excited about that. So, Chelsea, I hope it's okay that I can just ask you, how does dreams, let's just dive right in. How does dreams, um, and dreaming about the inner child relate to our journey, our spiritual journey, and our healing?
Oh, I love this one. Okay, so I always consider like the inner child to be the most authentic aspects of ourselves, which also would mirror the soul or who we are as like at the core, right? So I've noticed doing some of my own personal experiences with the inner child that it really led to abilities of my third eye chakra, being able to really see beyond the veil, to use the imagination, not just for fun, but also for, like manifesting purposes or, like a lot of interesting stuff. So I've noticed that those are abilities that come from the inner child. And it's organic, really natural for your soul too. So I think say it's important for the self-discovery and the soul discovery because it kind of does have some of the access of the more authentic ability part of like metaphysics and stuff. It would always be like the children who are experiencing these things, usually more than adults. Not saying adults can't. We usually have a better belief system when we're children about it than when we get older. So the inner child's important to discover on a lot of that.
Yeah. Yeah, the inner child is definitely the gateway to our soul. And the inner child, oh, you all have an inner child within you. Actually, we have many versions of inner childs within us, right? An experience you had at 8 could be very different than an experience you had at, like, say, age 4 or 12 or 16. And so those parts of you live inside of you. And so just like Chelsea said, that the inner child mirrors the soul connection is such a key place. And when we're tuned in, when we are just opening up ourselves up to, and it would be really interesting how you guys dream tonight. I would love to know. But once we even just open ourselves up and give permission and acknowledgement of, like, okay, I do have an inner child. Wow. Things do start to shift. And so much of this journey is uncovering who we truly are, and your inner child is with you for part of that. So does anyone want to share an example, if they're comfortable, with just a dream that they've had, or even if you don't want to talk about a dream, like just an aspect of your inner child that you want clarity on too? That's welcome.
Yeah, and if you don't want to speak up, you can even write it in the chat and we'll see it and kind of talk about it too.
I think, Max, did you want to say something?
I was thinking, yeah, regards my inner child, I've been doing a lot of self-discovery work over the last, well, all my life, but really going in deep the last 9 months, doing a lot of shadow work, and yeah, discovering who I am as a person, and yeah, it's just nothing too specific, but I mean, like, it's just been a beautiful journey of uncovering my self-love, my confidence, my assertiveness, my boundaries, and always, with a spiritual twist to it, to try and understand the existence better.
That's amazing. What's been your biggest, like, a moment of just, wow, that has been a breakthrough for you?
That people don't want saving, and that I can't actually save anybody. I personally can only save myself. And that you can inspire people to save themselves, but I had a behavior complex, and, and I got a lot of my energy back into myself and self-love. And through leading by example, I've been more effective at trying to help people than I have.
Oh,
Did we just lose him? Oh, there he is.
yeah. Sorry, Max, can you say that the last part again? The Wi-Fi was just a little...
I do apologize.
No, it's okay. I heard, I'm not a savior's complex, and there was something after that, probably the last, like, few...
Yeah. So it's been more effective at being able to help people by not trying to save them. That's almost it's just a bit, it was a bit delusional, and a bit rude, really, assuming that I know better and I can help. But realistically, I dug deep and found that I wanted to save people just so someone could save me. And that's my responsibility. So I was unqualified and unaware of my intentions, So that was the biggest aha moment in the last 9 months, that I can't save anybody. But in that same statement, I can help people save themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a beautiful and very self-responsibility awareness piece. And I think so many of us, an inner child wound can be, well, I have to please and I have to give my needs away in order to be loved. And all of that encompasses, I mean, there's so many reasons that can make us wanting to be the savior. And so, yeah, just to echo what Max said, because it's really, really transformational when you can acknowledge and accept that put the responsibility on yourself. And you know what's awesome is, you can overgive, you can try to fix. And once you put that responsibility on yourself and you turn inward first, you'll be able to serve and be of service. And it looks very different than saving and fixing. Would you say that?
Yeah, very much so. It's far more inclusive, far more considerate, and full and effective.
Oh, thanks for sharing, Max.
Was that
Just the last part of that.
just effective was the last word. So far more respectful, considerate, inclusive and respectful.
Yeah.
Could I just ask a quick question?
Mm-hmm.
I'll turn this on so y'all can see me while I ask. So you guys mentioned earlier about the full dream thing, and then you were talking about dreams related to inner child. What do you how do you tell the difference between a dream that's inner child related and one that isn't?
There's
Because to
usually
me, that's kind of a confusing concept.
So what I always suggest is that when we try to track internal parts, have a dream journal. And when you start looking at it
Okay.
at a large scale, like tiny puzzle pieces that build something big, you'll start noticing the patterns. It's something emotional from your childhood. For example, like for my inner child, it was taking me to parts of like my inner child home or experiences, school, or even bringing up dreams with some sort of juvenile concept to it, right? Like maybe being back in gym or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But I've also had experiences that I had realized later on as a long-term scale was sometimes I was also dreaming that there was a bird stuck on the wall. That could mean a lot of different things within the different contexts. But when I was started seeing how it applied to me, in that sense, the bird was like an inner child voice. And I was also working on my third eye or my third eye chakra at that point. So I had some few interesting dreams, like going through cupboards, opening cupboards, looking for something, but I don't remember what I was looking for. That kind of went along with the bird in the wall and the idea of the inner child too. So like that'd be
Uh,
extremely symbolic and kind of more something that's difficult to track. It takes time. So you might not know what that means like right away, but if you give yourself a couple months of really focusing on the patterns, you'll start to notice. And it's usually like a really good aha moment and it resonates with you deep down, like you'll know. But
okay.
then the more obvious ones would be like when you're going back to school or something juvenile, something that's emotional, an old home, maybe your bedroom or grandparents' house, something familiar within the childhood.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious about that. Thanks.
No, yeah, of course. I hope that helps.
I'm curious, Chelsea, like when someone, like, can you give a little bit more context, I guess? Like if I were to have a dream and I go back to my childhood home, how does that relate to my journey? What could that be showing me?
There's always a little different and unique. So I always try to say like give more context and the details, but I can give you a couple ideas of what it could mean.
Amazing. Yeah.
Just because for everyone to be a little more relatable too. There's always something unresolved in childhood. If it's something emotional, maybe something you neglect in yourself current day. I've realized that a lot of the times the inner child currently wants to be heard, seen, have the platform, not just in the
Mm.
dreamland, but also during the day. So it's usually a lot of balancing. But there's also a lot of emotional connections with those dreams because, we're young little humans and emotional, experiencing a lot of things for the first time. So they tend to have a lot to say. But once you're on like kind of decent terms with your inner child in dreamland and start to familiarize yourself with the language of it, um, you will eventually notice that it's even has an opinion of what you're currently doing now in your life, and it's not always about the past. Sometimes it's just that the internal child within yourself wants to experience something that you're currently doing in daytime, if it be trying new things or relaxing, having more fun, they'll suggest and try to make their voices known. which
Yeah.
is funny.
Hey, quick question.
Yes.
For connecting to your inner child, do you find that your awareness grows the more you do this work, what they want, and how best to sort of meet all their needs? And do you communicate with them similarly to how you can communicate with, your higher self, or for instance, I don't know the terminology to use, but I call it Yahweh, but like the whatever created existence, God.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, I do treat it like that. So I psychoanalyze um based off of the internal family system. It is the idea like how you have an exterior family, right? But imagine that existing within yourself. You have your feminine side, you have your masculine side, you have your higher self, then you've got the God or the goodness and the devil too, right? The good and the bad duality a little bit too on that exists in existence. But then you also have your inner child. And then a lot of people will tend to have even more internal parts that have been like manifested just through experiences or even trauma. So when you look at it, the inner child exists in that bubble, and that's how you psychoanalyze yourself into different aspects or parts. So it's a very like Jungian concept to be breaking it down into so many different diagrams a little bit, but they
Mhm.
each do show their voices in dreams. So if you're ever curious about how to approach it, like, yes, you could totally approach it like you would your higher self or when you're talking to God. Pretend it's a third party aspect of yourself if you wanted to do that, but also bringing it back to wholeness. There's this book that I absolutely love called No Bad Parts by Richard Schwartz. And he's the one that really came up with the internal family system, which has been real popular lately. And they have little meditations in there that show you how to like hear which voice is upset. Like where is some of the emotions coming from? Is it coming from a certain aspect of yourself, like your feminine side, your masculine, or your inner child, right? They do kind of appear naturally. So it's not even just symbolically. Sometimes you just sit there and you'll hear the quiet responses within yourself. And it's a piece of you that's finally getting the platform to speak about what it would like or what's going on. Tends to be very emotional for people. And I've experienced a few times, and so have my clients. And like I'm not always getting, I tell them to read the book, but they're not always reading the book, right? But they are organically doing the work on their own creative, organic way. So it still holds results. So I always just say, if you can use meditation, you can talk like you're talking to yourself while you walk around your kitchen or at work, and you can address different aspects of yourself however you'd like, to just give them a voice. And the inner child is definitely a unique one. I mean, they're all unique in their own attributes, but the inner child definitely gets curious and it brings itself to light in hopefully positive ways, but sometimes it can be negative. I've had mine appear negatively at me a few times and it was really wanting to be heard.
Yeah, I mean, to just echo that, the inner child. So just picture a child that you know. I know we all probably can think of a child that we know, and right, they come in the room, they're so full of light, they're so full of, they don't have a filter. Usually they're in their creativity, just like, blah, it's me, right? And I hope that you can all reflect back on moments where you could be expressive, you could be in your creativity and wonder and playfulness. And so when we are children, we are so connected to source. And unfortunately, some kids at a very young age will be exposed to trauma. And like that's part of the work that we do, is uncovering that, uncovering the emotional part that Chelsea's referring to, because sometimes there's just, when we even relearn to love ourselves and love our inner child, there can be a lot of like, when in that negativity, what it can sometimes be is anger and resentment and yucky feelings, but they're actually so profound and so divine for the healing experience and reconnecting with your inner child. And so the inner child is so connected to source. And what I believe is that the inner child and the soul are one. You can't have one without the other. And so I always intertwine inner child and soul work together. And so I hope that gives you guys some clarity. And what I can also do is just if this is brand new for you, like these concepts are just you're wanting to know more. And also it's just sometimes good to just remember 3 things about your inner child. And this will connect to soul, this will connect to your dreams, and really just your healing journey and personal development. So the first thing about your inner child is literally just to acknowledge that you have an inner child, to give yourself permission that you have an inner child within you. Your inner child's right here, right now. And so be curious, be playful. Like, how can you let your inner child come out and be playful? The second thing is, like I said, actually before, your soul and your inner child are one. They're not separate. It's really beautiful how, like, yeah, we can have all these intricate parts of ourselves. They make up. And it's really amazing when you do this work, which I'm sure you guys are on the journey, you uncover masks of protection that really helped your inner child be safe, but, you know, are also blocking you from understanding who you truly are at the same time. So as you get to heal your inner child, see these parts of yourself, you will take off the masks, you will take off the layers. And even like Max said, like, you know, one of the things you could do is, okay, I've got to save everyone. Well, guess what? That mask is off, and I do not need to do that. That was a protective mechanism. That was, you know, whatever it was. And so, and the third thing, because I can just go on and on and on about this. The third thing is, when we don't acknowledge our inner child, emotions will continue to be suppressed. So it's this beautiful dynamic of your inner child holds so much wisdom, like so much wisdom. And it's connected to even just your intuition. So like Chelsea was saying, like when you go around your life, you can be in the car, just like, okay, how can I let my inner child be playful today? How can I let him or her come out and connect with me and show me something about my divine self that I need to know? Because you do know, it's just allowing that part of yourself to be seen. And so what I always remind people of is, like, it's not about having all the answers right now. It's about giving yourself permission to be open to this, and it will come. I promise you it will come. So I hope that gives some clarity on the few things. Chelsea, do you have anything else you want to say on these points?
That was pretty good. Yeah, like, it's like, yeah, I don't want to go back to what I was saying before. I feel like I'm going to repeat the internal family system again, just very or naturally because of what you're saying. No, so like, there's a lot going on with the inner child and the soul. And like, I was also saying, it's not just like what we can bring from the value in the daytime, but also just the whole soul explorations. I wouldn't say the inner child is necessarily the soul, because I do feel like our whole psyche and our whole identity creates that, or it's embodied it. Like they're all, I don't know, it's weird because even in dreams, I'll see the soul represented as something different, but it obviously it's all a part of this whole thing. But I do think that the inner child is like the key to opening up the soul
Yeah.
authentically. Like, and I've even seen that in my own dreams. Like while I was doing the self-discovery parts and tracking different internal aspects of myself, the inner child was the most difficult to get back to, actually, for me. And it's not that because I was already having experiences in the daytime with it, or not the daytime, but like throughout the year with the dreams. But when I actually started diving deeper into the dreams, like I was very lucid and I would kind of explore, and I always noticed that there was like a locked closet, and inside the closet, I didn't realize it was my inner child at first until like the third dream in. Uh, but she used to warp me in this weird way and kind of close the door on me. And I was always like, what is behind this door? You know, and it had me curious for months. And once I realized that, so when I say warped, okay, I know that this is a weird term and not everyone may be familiar with it, but like you experience a lot of DMT in your sleep, right? And what it helps produce the dreams. She would take the DMT and like amplify it to the point where she would like literally rush me out with this large whoosh of like a DMT release. None of my other internal aspects can do that, but my inner child. So that's some good strength. And it took me a while to realize that she was the one hiding in the closet, which mirrored my, reality as a child too. I used to hide in closets. So not to be shy on the whole, didn't have the best childhood necessarily. There was always emotional issues, right? But I have to say the internal child really opened the door on accessing my soul, exploring astral realms more clearly, being able to really take the whole dreaming to another level and like the creativity. She was always the imagination, the fun playfulness of who I am. So, and that would always show out in my writings a whole lot. So I was realizing that I was embodying her at different points, but still not embodying her completely or letting her in, or giving her the platform. Um, so it was just really interesting self-discovery on the inner child part and how she does kind of, and I always say she's the, if I had to say the inner child was any chakra, I think she's the third eye chakra.
Can you give some insight to that, Chelsea, just if anyone's curious what their third eye is?
Yeah, so I know
And how that works, I guess, too.
so like every culture around the world is always talking about the third eye. It's been around for a long time, but it's this idea of having like this spiritual, I don't know, I've never really described the third, described it in definition. I always am very
It's the
creative
connection
about
to
it.
source.
Say that again,
Thank,
Max.
It's the connection to source.
yeah, perfect. So yeah,
And yeah, and I will say too, all of us here have felt it. You might not have been fully aware of it, and as you do this work, it does naturally open. Um, and like it's so complex and so simple. Like we are in this divine flow with creator, with ourselves, and there's so many parts to it because I mean so many of us were brought up in different cultures, different parts of the world, and sometimes it's breaking free of those belief systems or those, again, those masks that we've had to protect ourselves and getting back in alignment of there's so much to see that can't be seen, if that makes sense. And so, again, opening yourself up to that. And Chelsea, there was a question I had for you. So when you're describing that, I'm curious, like, how do I want to say it? So your inner child is the connection to your soul. How, I'm sorry, I got distracted with the third eye,
it's
but like,
okay.
oh, this is what I think this is what I was going to say. So what's behind the locked door? So I love the illustration that you gave, Chelsea, because I mean, your inner child is going to speak to you differently than anyone else. It's really, really cool where we've been taught to think one way. This is how you do life, one way thinking, where when you unlock this, chances are we all have a very different journey, yet we're all connected. So what's behind this door is really, really profound to just ask yourself that, like, what do I need to see behind the door? Maybe it's unknown, right? And the unknown, maybe we don't like to go there because, oh, it's unknown and the unknown is scary. But part of this work is going into the unknown, is being willing to face that part of yourself that has always been within you, that that knows you. And that can be the hard part, right? Um, and for me, like if I can just share a little bit for my inner journey and inner child, it was just a longing. I didn't have this vision. I had a longing inside of me going, this cannot be life because this is miserable and there has to be more to life than just this. So we're giving you some examples and some golden nuggets here where we want you to go back to you and what is your inner child saying to you? And I want to just open up the floor. Is anyone here just feeling like they're struggling with uncovering their personal truth or an aspect of themselves? Does anyone want to share any of that when it comes to this kind of topic and journey? Just want to give you some space. Anyone?
My inner child, I asked him, he just wants love.
Hmm.
Yeah.
How
You
do you,
know, sorry,
how,
go on.
how would you describe what love is, Max, compared to maybe what you grew up in or what you once knew? Is it a different definition of love? Like when you say he needs love, what does that mean?
Well, I sort of describe love as the best feeling in existence. And it sort of encompasses security, support, reinforcement, um, just being there. You know, like I yearn for love because well, I love it, but because my dad was is a very negative man and very down on himself and cannot communicate emotionally. And I, as a result, copied his sort of self-hatred and learnt from that. So at a very young age, I didn't accept myself. So I guess I want that love, or my inner child wants that love, so I can accept myself.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Thank you for sharing, Max. I appreciate you willing to share and that self-acceptance. I'm just going to echo that for the whole group here and even the ones watching the replay. Self-acceptance, like, what does that mean to you? Is there a part of yourself that you're really struggling to accept? And even if you've been on this journey for a while, I want you just to like, just check in, like close your eyes, center yourself for a moment, and just go, is there any part of me I'm struggling to accept right now? Any part of me that feels like they need to hide, that part of you that wants to hide is probably linked to your inner child 9 out of 10 times. You know, how can you nurture that part of yourself? I mean, this is a whole nother conversation for another time, but you know, even just the shadow or the darker parts of ourselves that maybe someone else told us that were bad or wrong or shameful, we learn to reject because someone else told us to reject that part. We don't have to do that anymore. So I just want you to just tap in. If you have been doing really well in this part, then just have some gratitude right now for, wow, I came this far. Like, yeah. And then also just reflect on, okay, there's a little bit more there within me. Now there's a yucky feeling. What is that? What is that showing me? Don't ask the why question. The why just gets you looped in the mind, loops of loops. You know, and just if there's hard emotions, if there's hard feelings, just what is that showing me? Just ask yourself, what do you, source, my divine soul, what do you have to show me? And again, it's not about having the answer right now, but it's giving your body permission, because that right there is self-love. It will be revealed in time. Okay. Oh, I think I needed that, like just a moment to breathe. So good. Oh, Chelsea, is there anything you want to just like bring this into full circle? Like, is there any aspect of the dreams or just the work that you do that you want to add into what we've been talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
so oh sorry, you were talking
no,
to Chelsea. I'm sorry. No, I'm
John,
sorry.
go
My bad.
ahead. Go
go
ahead,
on. You're
John.
fine.
You guys are
Now I
awesome.
feel bad. I feel
Don't feel
bad.
bad,
Okay.
John.
Okay. No, I know as far as my journey has gone, I did a lot of that inner child work because, as you grow up, you're essentially taught to just suppress every single aspect of yourself that is childish and be an adult and make money and stop complaining and all that stuff. And so, I've spent a long time kind of healing and all of that stuff. But where I sit now is in that adult state of, I've created a life for myself that I'm currently trying to work to get out of because, I just want what I had whenever I was a child because, you know, I grew up on a small piece of property. We had plenty of animals and I had a garden and, you know, there's plenty of life and all sorts of stuff going on. But as an adult, I became much more focused on finances, much more focused on building my own company and all this kind of stuff. And now I'm living in a house that has no yard with no animals, and it's just there's no spot to have a garden. And I'm just like, wow, you know, I've got everything that society says congrats on, but I absolutely hate this, you know. Like I'd rather live in this tiny little shack out in the woods and have my animals with me than be in this fancy spot in the city with all
Mhm.
of these finances and then just be miserable because my inner child wants to go play in the woods and go play with the animals and stuff. And I'm, you know, forcing myself to be an adult separate from who I feel like I am. So that's what I was going to interject, but I didn't know you were asking Chelsea something. So my bad.
Oh, John, it's okay.
You're
Like
fine.
this is so great. I'm so glad you shared, and I'm sure Chelsea will have stuff to say too. But this is actually like a really good example, and I just want to echo John where you are, and you know, John, we can talk later too about this because this is like such like an amazing place that you're in, like, and I also want to just reiterate that this journey, you know, we take a step and it's like, oh, okay, I listen to my soul, I listen to my inner child, amazing, I'm in the lane, right? It's like this divine lane. But you know, we're on this highway and then it's like, oh, there's another exit, I'm not happy with this anymore, I need to connect more, there's more for me, there's more to discover. So it's like, okay, I'm going to go off the exit and we go on another highway and we're learning and we're unlearning and we're uncovering ourselves. And then it's like, and this is where, you know, surrendering to the fact that this is a journey. It's not this, I got everything, I'm gonna good now. And so John, I feel like you're kind of, okay, it's time to go to the next highway. I've learned what I need to learn from here. And now it's next for the next lane because there's more for you. And curious, John, like when was the last time that you let yourself go out in nature? I know you're not living there right now, but like, can you just go out to nature, get barefoot, run around, let your inner child out, you know?
Yeah, so I do that a lot. But the one so I don't have an issue with connecting to nature because thank God I happen to live about 5 minutes away from all the mountains and stuff, and then I'm about 10 minutes away from the ocean, so I can connect with nature very easily, thank God. But uh as far as just the feeling at home, because I'm a very much home environment, homebody. I want to create a safe space where I exist. And so that's kind of the thing that kind of brings me down a little bit is that, you know, I can go out into the mountains and I can go out and hike and meditate out there and have fun. But then whenever I come home, I almost feel like I'm coming home to this dense space that's like a lack of life. I've got plants and all that stuff inside, but it's just not the same as just being in nature versus, you know, being in the city and then having to drive to nature. I just feel like those are two different things.
Absolutely. I hear you on that. Chelsea, do you want to chime in a little at all?
Um,
I
no,
don't
I
want to
think
I don't want to force you, but I just don't want to take over the conversation either. So I wanted to let you
fine.
chime in if you wanted to.
No, I think he has a lot of a self-awareness on that. And it is just kind of letting it align and picking the right path that kind of leads you to those goals. I think a lot of the times we don't realize that we have non-negotiables until we destroy them or pass the boundaries on them. So it sounds like with the inner child or just living authentically or being truly at peace with where you want to be versus what society conditions does, right? So ultimately, yeah, I think you're doing a great job. And it's just kind of leading in that direction. Don't negotiate. Figure out what your non-negotiables are in life and don't negotiate them.
Mhm.
That helps make, I've realized just on like a life coaching aspect, that really helps keep kind of true to not just your inner child, but like every aspect of yourself. Um, because, you know, we're very complex systems, really. We got a lot going on. We're like a computer with a bunch of programs going on. So it's good to kind of know what's doing what and where and feeling at home, I think, is definitely a soul thing. But I think with the way you were speaking of it, it was definitely more physical. Like nature's alive. You want to be where all the cool stuff is, which
Where the action's at.
I totally get it. I lived in a couple cities throughout the last few years, and then when I finally got out to nature, I used to go just to visit. But when I moved out there, it was very different. Um, and I would write a lot of like creative writings on just nature itself, but also when I'm around nature, I get very like that's kind of where I learned shamanism a little bit at its basic core, right? Was seeing that nature is an ecosystem and there's much to learn from that, and it kind of reflects on the micro and macro of the universe. So nature is very spiritualistic, and I think we kind of deprive ourselves of that sometimes when we live in the city too long.
For sure.
That
Yeah,
was a bit off
and
topic, but no, I was like, I love nature. And I think if that's where you want to be, go for it. It's a non-negotiable, right?
yeah, and just also, John, just reminding you and anyone here, if your inner child or soul is longing you to do something and you feel stuck, or you're just like, how the heck am I going to do this? I'm here and it's served me and I've learned a lot, but where do I go next? One step at a time. Part of our programming and what our inner child and intuition, it only usually reveals one step at a time. We can have this inner knowing, we can have this longing of like, okay, I know I want to go and live out in the nature and I can visualize myself there and it feels so wonderful, but I'm here. And so what is the next best step? And you take that first aligned action, you'll have clarity for the next one and the next one and the next one. And then just welcome to the human experience where, this is what it is. And there was one other thing I wanted to say, and it's gone from me. That is okay. But yeah, I just wanted to say that that no, I'm just like blanking on it. It's like there's so much. But simplifying it to that next best step, John, knowing that you're right on time, you are, all of us are, but it's like we are right on time, and our next step, okay, how is this going to be aligned with who I truly am, what my soul is connecting me towards? So amazing insight that you shared, because I can definitely relate to that, and I'm sure other people here can in their own way too. And
The
that goes
way
for
I've led to, sorry, the way I've led to understand that is relinquish the control over the past and the future and deal with the next right thing. You
yeah,
know, what feels good in the moment, like, because you can't, there's no point fretting, like, getting depressed about the past or anxious about the future, because all you can control is the right now. And as your guides, use your feelings and your intuition, and just make the next right decision.
Thanks, Max. And also, I think, Max, you said a little bit about it. I mean, I might be saying it in a different words, but I understand though, like can be so hard to let go of the past, not fear the future, because that is also like a massive pattern that a lot of us have to break through in this healing journey. Is so many people I work with, it's, well, I'm either regretting my past or I'm like super anxious of my future. But all we do have is right now, like right here, right now. We're all together right now. And this is not an accident. This is divine that you're here. But all we have is right now. And we're completely taken care of right now. Deanna, you're in that hotel room. You're completely taken care of right now. And John, you're driving in your car. You have this vision. You're completely taken care of right now. And guess what? That self-love that Max talked a little bit about too, in that present moment, in this present moment, this is where you can have love. This is where you can experience love, is in this actual moment. And when you allow yourself to experience that and allow the love to reign in right now, right here for you, you will have clarity as well on the next step. Being present is a form of love for yourself. So just wanted to restate that as well in a different way. You guys have been amazing. I just want to check in with Deanna and Navia. Is there anything you two ladies want to add? Even in the chat box, there's absolutely no pressure though. I just want to make sure you guys have some space to share.
Yeah. And
Oh,
I know
look at little Max. Sorry, Max shared a picture. I love that.
yeah, I saw that. It was cute.
Thank you. That's cool. Ah, sorry, Chelsea, go ahead.
No, you're fine. Sorry, I was coughing. So I do want to ask, because I know I've shared a lot of dreams just as examples, hoping to get the ball rolling a little bit for people to think a little. Um, is there anyone that would like to share a dream of their inner child or something they feel like would be their inner child dreams by chance? You could even share it here or in the comment section is fine. I'd just be kind of curious to see if you guys had thought of any yet.
So I've had a few of them, but what I notice about mine is that they're more, it's almost like my inner child's just like, oh, hey, you need to tidy up that in your life, or you need to fix that, or hey, here's some parts of yourself that you still haven't healed quite yet, you know? Like the other night, I had a dream of my mom, and my mom was, we were back at our childhood home and all that, and my mom was bursting in on me, and I was I was young and all that, and I was trying to talk to a person, and I was trying to kind of like have a relationship with this girl, and my mom would just constantly just be right in my face, like, what are you doing, what are you doing, what are you doing? I grew up in an extremely Christian home, and so you weren't allowed to talk to women, period, unless you were going to get married to them the next week, and
Yeah.
so so she was just like constantly in my face, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? And the entire dream was just like me trying to shove my mom off of me and like push my mom away as much as I could. And it was that was pretty much the entirety of the dream. What I kind of interpreted that to be was just all, because that happened in real life. Anytime I would be talking to anybody, my mom would always just immediately interject. Is she Christian? Is she this? Is she that? What is she doing? What kind of career does she have? Da, 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 da. And my mom was always extremely just hyper, on my relationships. And it was just like, okay, guys, mom. But I hadn't really thought about that since I kind of started this whole journey and all that. And so whenever I started thinking about that, I noticed that I started getting really angry whenever I would start remembering all the stuff that my mom would do whenever I was, in high school and trying to date a girl and stuff. And that day I just ended up just getting all just mad. I was just mad the entire day. And I was like, oh, okay, I see why it's there. I see why I got brought up. I haven't dealt with that yet. So
That's so
but that's
perfect.
but yeah, that's just one example.
No, that's a really good example, just as something that actually did happen. So like yeah, it does have the emotional attachment of all that. So you said you had this dream recently, right?
Yeah.
Does your mom still do you feel like your mom still treats you like that a little bit? Is that why it's
Oh
gone a
yeah.
little bit?
Oh yeah.
That kind of had a
I
feeling.
I've just learned to accept my mom. The saying I've got is, you can't get mad at a rooster for crowing. You know, it's what they do. So just accept it for what it is and move on.
Try to like get the anger resolved, have a different perspective a little bit on the mother hen a little bit.
Right.
That's it. That's fun. That's a good example for an inner child dream, by the way. I think someone shared or no,
Yeah,
hold on.
Deanna had a share where I'll let you read it.
Oh, nice. Okay. And if you don't dream a lot, but you would like to try to dream a lot, just start thinking about it during the day and also just setting the attentions. For those who like to meditate, I say even meditate while you're laying down and let yourself fall asleep and just set the intention to have more memory. It really is just a muscle and you work it out. We're always dreaming. It's the awareness that's the muscle. So like someone says they're not dreaming I don't really believe that. I think it's the, if you're consciously remembering it or not, because our brains are very active, just like during the day. They don't ever shut up. They go constantly. Um, so everyone dreams. It's the idea of really just trying to build into the awareness. So if you try to set the intention on a daily or nightly process, even try to journal a little bit or write them down and talk yourself through it, you'll start noticing within a couple days that you're remembering a few extra dreams or little bits of them. And I always say that if you're journaling dreams, even the small fragmented dreams that don't seem important, those usually lead up to a big dream, and they're tinier puzzle pieces that help pull in a bigger picture. Now, I'll always say that dreams, I never interpret just one dream. I work a whole cluster out. So I encourage people to do the same when they view their dreams. Don't look at just one little dream. Look at the big picture of like a week's worth or a couple months worth even, and see what you're pulling out from it. And symbolism might mean one thing the next morning, but a few months down the road, it will evolve into a deeper meaning throughout your daytime and just your awareness on this symbolism. Uh, it is always changing and evolving, and it's not that it changes definition. It almost just gets deeper in meaning, like a spiral or a circle. It just keeps going. That's
Amazing.
just a snippet. Yeah, dreams are fun.
Yeah, and honestly, Deanna, I sleep like a log too, where there's some nights I will wake up and I will remember it for like split second. Like it's in my mind, it's in my being. I'm like, whoa, I went to like that place and I did that thing and whoa. And then it's gone. Like it's gone. Like you do like Chelsea said, like take the time where again, I just want to restate that if you don't have to right now. If you just want to focus on the inner child aspect, awesome. If you want to dive into this awesome. I know that there's going to be a few people that were signed up that will probably watch the replay where they've been having dreams and like, oh my goodness, what do I do with them? Where, that it, hopefully there's been some insight here that can take the next step. So
yeah, it's good
yeah.
tips and tricks. And even though I work with people with dreams a lot, and I always say it's nice. I wish I had someone like me doing the dream analysis, but that's also how I learned how to do dream analysis with self-application and then going through the certifications. But like it all started with my own, just organically. So, and you learn a lot. So it's just getting tips and tricks, learning how to self-apply it for anyone that was interesting. And for anyone doing sessions with Sarah, you should totally share your dreams with her if they're inner child related. I think that will help really just go full circle too, or bring more meat to it, because the subconsciousness is a really interesting piece of equipment. It's talking all the time, even when we're sleeping, and there's a lot going. And it doesn't really carry secrets that well either. It will just spit it out in a very symbolic way, but that's just its language. It's the idea that it always is trying to tell us something or process our emotions, or even have the soul aspects. So you really do hit a lot of ground in the dreams. And I would love to see society in general just be more consciously aware of their dreams. It's not just for pure entertainment.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Chelsea, for that clarification. And it's been so fun being here with you guys. It's already been an hour. So, is there any questions you guys have that are like, oh, I need to ask this before we go? Otherwise, we will wrap it up shortly.
Is there anything that you can do? Oh, sorry. Is there anything that you can do kind of throughout the day? If you have a question that's wearing on your mind that you can't really figure out what to do, is there anything that you can do to kind of like provoke a dream to kind of give you a little bit of insight or something like that throughout your day, or maybe before you go to bed or anything like that? Or is it just, because for me, it is completely random. They will happen at the most random times. Like sometimes they're just random dreams, but whenever I get the dreams that I kind of feel are from my inner child, that they just happen at random, and it's like, okay, when they happen, take note. For the most part, we're going to be dreaming about chickens or something like that.
Yeah. I can't hear you. We can't hear you very well.
just happened.
What was the last part, John?
Okay.
No, I was hearing parts of that. Hold on, I think he's figuring out his
That's okay.
mic.
Does anyone want to share a takeaway that they can bring into their life from this event tonight? And I'm so glad you've been here.
Yeah.
I think maybe just the importance of doing the inner work, you know, like for our external satisfaction in life and understanding of self and learning of life's purpose. I think yes, child work is really important. So I'm really glad that you've brought us this information and like dream analysis is still a bit beyond me. I was once having apocalyptic dreams for about a year, and that was just a horrible year. So I hope that they don't hold any meaning because it would suck to go through the apocalypse. But from what I understand, like entities of other dimensions can affect our dreams too. Supposedly it was an ancient technique by which they controlled the masses. But obviously, not discounting the modality, it's a very interesting thing to have explored. So, big thanks.
Well, now I just did a YouTube video on apocalyptical dreams last week. I do like apocalyptical dreams because I feel like they hold a lot of meaning internally as well as a mass collective. But I don't always take them literally. So when you were having your mass collective or your apocalyptical dreams for almost a year, you said, were you going through any like pivotal changes in your perception of reality and your growth in the spiritual journey? Was that like a significant year for that?
Oh my God, it was it was after my third bipolar attack, where I went into mania and psychosis, more so psychosis in that attack.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I really interacted with the universe quite physically, and mentally. And yeah, as a result, my awareness was just blown out of proportion. And so it was just horrible dreams. Combine that with coming out of addiction too. My dreams were a lot more active,
Mm-hmm.
of which I'm now 9 months, 17 days sober, which I'm very happy.
Nice. Okay, that was a definitely an active year. So I think that would definitely represent your emotional aspects. But like, I've noticed apocalyptical dreams can sometimes be the end of a phase and leading into a new one, or this internal struggle trying to lead into a new perspective, or reflecting what we're doing in the daytime and even internally as a soul aspect. So it sounds like you had an interesting year for sure. And I'm glad to see you here today and
Oh,
obviously
it's a big
much
one.
much healthier.
Yeah, absolutely.
No,
Thank you,
but
Max.
yeah, you're right on the point with the metaphysical aspects of dreams, and it's very interesting that we've been experiencing this for like all of humanity's history, basically, worldwide. Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you.
Chelsea, could you could you share the link for you said you recorded a video on it? I wanted to see if you could share the link for that.
Yeah, hold on, let me pull it up 1 second.
By the way, sorry about earlier. Apparently my headphone died on me. That was the whole thing.
That happens too. All good.
Sorry, I hope no one heard that. Did you guys hear that music, or was that just me?
No, you're good.
Okay. you did video started playing, and I was like, "Ugh, stop it." All right.
Well, I might check it out, guys. I love the Navy.
Oops. Sorry, Max, we can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I might just check it out then, guys. I might love the Navy.
So glad you were here, Max.
Yeah.
Yeah, ditto. I'll speak to you later tonight.
Sounds good, Max. Talk to you later.
Au revoir.
Nice to meet you, Max. Hope to connect again.
Wonderful.
Okay. Yeah, and if anyone would like to follow me on Facebook, I talk about dreams a lot or share the YouTube videos. So it's just another way to, if you're not interested in doing a one-on-one, you could learn a lot just following the content too, which is fun for self-application. Let's see. And I just sent that YouTube link for the apocalyptical dreams, but I've got like way more stuff on there than just apocalyptical. That was just one little snippet.
No, I was just curious about that because Max had said something interesting about oh my gosh, sorry. Max had just said something interesting about the other dimensions kind of interfering with our dreams and stuff, and that sounded interesting. Sorry, there's a lot of ice bumps, so my
No, you're
voice is
fine.
gonna be pretty
Yeah, so when I
bumpy.
do dream analysis sessions, 90% of my clients experience metaphysical things with different dimensions. We usually break it down, talk about belief systems, how the ego will allow that kind of in, because the ego kind of is the manager, tries to keep reality at a certain point of view. So it usually gets really interesting, but we do talk about the good guys, the bad guys, the higher realms, the lower realms, how the subconsciousness works, how the consciousness works alongside it. We talk about the internal family system. We talk about a lot of interesting things. So it's a very broad lane, really, and each person's kind of similar with how they approach it, but very unique in their own way too. So it's for me as a coach, it's just very like, wow. It's very cool to be at least sitting in the coach's seat and see just all these different realities come across.
Sure. No, I was curious about that because I've had a few dreams in the past before too, where it's like one of them I was in my apartment and I'd never been in the building, but I just for some reason knew that it was my apartment and all that kind of stuff. And I was just cleaning and there were these voices going on in the background and they were just kind of like giving me on instructions on what to do in my waking life and all this kind of crap, which was pretty crazy. And one of the things that they mentioned was like, oh, well, you need to find this book made by this author. And I'd never heard the name before. And it was hard to find his book. But in my waking life, I was able to actually track down his book, and it turned out to be some sort of book on enlightenment and letting go and all sorts of stuff. And so I've had dreams like that before where it's like it's almost like something else is speaking to me, but I didn't know that that was something that that you also touched on.
Yeah, so we work with internal guides. They usually talk a lot, but you also come across like all sorts of guides, and they may not be like your guide specifically, but they'll stop and guide you for a minute. Some negative, some positive. That's interesting though. You said they suggested a book because I've heard this before, and it always catches my attention when they suggest books because I'm like, and usually has to do with something around the pagan religion or the finding your own authentic course to that, which is what like pagan would be. Um, no, it's very interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, feel free to
the
follow me
book
on Facebook.
here,
We could chat about it.
yeah, for sure. But the book that they had recommended, it wasn't necessarily pagan or anything like that. It was more of like I don't know. It's a book by oh I forget his name. Alaric Hutchinson, I think is the guy's name.
Eric?
But it's essentially Alaric, not Eric.
Alaric.
And it
Okay.
took me forever to find it because I had no idea how to spell Alaric because I've never heard that word before. Um, but Alaric Hutchinson is Alaric, I think is what it is. And he writes a book called Living Peace, and it's kind of a like a workbook for enlightenment slash channeled book kind of thing. he kind of goes into how kind of the information came to him. But that was a really interesting thing that, you know, in my book, I've never heard this word before, alaric, because that's an odd word in itself.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, it was like, oh yeah, go find this book because this is going to help you on your path. And I was like, okay. And then I wake up and I'm like, you know, am I going crazy? And then I find the book and I'm just like, yeah, I am going crazy.
No, no, you're not. You're not crazy. No, that's so cool. And Hutchinson sounds really familiar, but I feel like Hutchinson's a more popular name probably too but I'm curious. I'm gonna look this book up now. Just because I always like to look into stuff like that. It's fun. No, you're definitely not crazy. People get contacted. I've experienced aliens helping people. I've experienced spirit guides helping people. Had some sessions where we've had weird demon things going on. Ones where they're just really beautiful on the self-discovery too. And I've noticed that there's like this phasing where you have the self-discovery, but at the same time you're having the soul discovery and they bounce back and forth. But they also mirror each other. Very interesting. So it's I don't know, but the soul discovery dreams tend to really be loose, extremely like astral projecting or out of body, or something like how you're explaining, where it's not symbolic to your internal nature, but very like you're consciously connecting with another conscious being outside of yourself and learning in that perspective.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Chelsea. Thanks so much, everyone, for being here. Thanks for sharing, John and Navia. I hope you are getting something from here, and feel free to message either one of us after this, guys. Yeah, the inner child and really just your dreams and also just your life, your journey. Continue to go knowing that you're guided, that your inner knowing does know. If you catch yourself saying, I don't know, like, you do know. Get out of your mind into your body, and your inner child is within your body. And so that's a whole other topic that I could teach on that we won't get into for right now, but just I hope you can take something from tonight, integrate it into your life. Feel free to follow up with us, continue the conversation. We definitely encourage that. And it's been awesome to be here with you guys. Chelsea, do you want to say anything before we close?
No, it was just really lovely to have this space and talk to you guys. I think this was a great topic, so I'm so happy to have been having this opportunity with you. And again, if anyone wants to follow me on Facebook, go for it. I try to be pretty personal and interactive, give some tips and tricks. So, and I hope everyone has a great night.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, thank you for being here, showing up for yourself, and go in peace. We'll chat with you guys soon.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Appreciate it.
You're so welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, bye guys.